And welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is The Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here. Hey, new line. I love it. This history we found out. I don't effing care if they have weapons. That's going to be right up there with, government of, for, and by. We the people should not perish from the earth. Abe Lincoln. That's right up there with Franklin Roosevelt's. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. JFK and the ask not what you can do, what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Or even Ronald Reagan, Mr. Gorbachev, open up this gate and tear down this wall. Yeah. We've now got the Orange Menace. I don't effing care if they've got weapons. They're not here to hurt me. Take the effing mags away. Let my people in. They can march to the Capitol from here. Let the people in. Take the mags away. Yeah. I can just see that now. It's going to be on a giant billboard. Yeah, that's welcome to America. Take the mags away. Let the faithful. The other one is, let them hang Mike Pence. History, my friends, history in the making. And what did our corporate controlled for-profit right-wing conservative media focus on today? Was it that we had a president that wanted his vice president hung? Was it the fact that he was okay with the people who were there being armed with weapons and overarmed, overwhelmed the Capitol Police? Was that the story? No, that was not the story. No. What we got was ketchup on the wall. We got flying hamburgers. That's what we got, flying hamburgers. Yeah, occasionally, evidently, that's the big thing. People were shocked, I tell you. We had a president who threw temper tantrums. And I'm going, hello? Seriously? This is what we're focusing on today? That there was ketchup dripping down the wall? That the worst thing this guy could have done was throw his dish against the wall? Seriously? That's what we're focusing on? Flying hamburgers. Never mind that he wanted his vice president hung. I mean, oh my gosh. I'm not surprised. Now look, I'll be honest. I woke up looking for this stuff today. I woke up looking for the absurd, for the ridiculous media culture that we have that gives us the shiny stuff, a good healthy dose of outrage candy to keep us, focused in the wrong direction. I'm expecting that. And of course, you were waiting for the right-wing voices to attack Cassidy Hutchinson, of which, the first thing, here's the reality. This is why I believe what she had to say. One, her career as a MAGA zealot, over. The Kool-Aid that she drank, it's over. The path she was on that she could have led a very comfortable life in, over. More importantly, if you remember, the first response from the former guy was not that she's a liar. No. Not that anything she was saying was untrue. No, it wasn't that. No. It was to attack and diminish her. I don't know who she was, attack her character, her. Wasn't about what she was saying. No, because true. And this is what they do. It's all about the deflecting. Now, they let the other stuff to the right-wing minions, who then are going to try and pick pieces apart here and there. Oh, wait a second. Here's the reality. Donald Trump's so fat he can't go after the steering wheel. Doesn't mean he didn't try. Doesn't mean he didn't make an attempt. Now, was the attempt successful? Because one of my favorite cartoons of the day are, a tiny child like Trump with little baby hands, trying to get around the neck of a giant, Secret Service agent who's just kind of like, get off me, old man. I get that. Didn't mean he didn't try. So yeah, that's been the fun part. Now for me, again, what came out of the hearing, what came out of Cassidy Hutchinson's testimony, the big stuff for me was, as I said, our quote of the day: "Take down the freaking mags. Let all the people with weapons that he knew had weapons." Because for those who've been longtime listeners, you may remember on January 6th, on the day of the insurrection, I was questioning how and why all of these people had things. I don't know, like metal flagpoles. How do you get those? Because I've been to protests at the Capitol. They only let you have cardboard tubes. Not even aluminum tubes like the Bush years. Cardboard tubes. No metal flagpoles with eagles on the top. No weapons like that. You're not allowed to have that. And now we find out, because of Miss Hutchinson's testimony, that the criminals who came armed and ready for the insurrection, because they knew what was going on, because it was pre-planned, they didn't go through the mags, which upset the Donald, because he wanted his people right up close. He wanted the photo op, and again, his vanity. This is the part that I think people should be focused on. The fact that he was more concerned about his vanity and his size, his crowd size. All of my people loving really close to me. It's not enough that they were there with weapons ready to overthrow a government for him. No, they had to be a little bit closer. They had to get in the photo op. They had to make sure that the crowd size photo was there. I mean, this is amazing. And to have the MAGA world go, no, it's all a lie. It's all made up. It's all no good. We got to figure out something. We found out that the House Minority Leaders told Trump not to come to the Capitol. Don't do it. Don't do it. You got the White House counsel saying, don't do it. Unimaginable amounts of crimes. Still wanted to do it. Because, again, above the law. Nothing going to stop him. And this is where you start coming to the reality that these people, they don't, this isn't about democracy. This isn't about the will of the people. This isn't about America. This is about ego. This is about one guy and a whole bunch of people attempting to appease him because he's brainwashed a generation. And I'm still struggling with this. I'm still struggling with the fact that there are still, in this moment, people who are going to look at that testimony and, oh no, she's making stuff up. Understand, this 26-year-old woman, she could have been on Easy Street. She could have been. She could have kept her mouth silent. She could have taken the threats from whoever is twisting arms and making those, hey, you got a nice career there. Shame if something happened. We also found out that there's somebody, and I'm hoping we find out who it is very soon. Somebody going around going, hey, you might want to stay loyal. Good things happen to people who stay loyal. Yep. Love to hear your thoughts. 1-866-416-RICK, 1-866-416-7425. Yeah, I mean, I'm fascinated by some of the news coverage that I've seen lately. The Michael Flynn thing hasn't gotten a lot of attention, other than, a guy who praised the peaceful transfer of power and had, talked at length about how it makes us exceptional. He now pleads the fifth when asked if he supported the said concept. Found that interesting, the fact that both Rudy Giuliani and Mark Meadows both asked Trump for pardons. I think that's interesting. We're finding out a lot more. And oh, by the way, here's the good news today. The former White House counsel, Pat Cipollone, he has been subpoenaed to testify. Now, this is one of these moments. It's one of those moments where I go, did he get subpoenaed because they demanded it, or did he get subpoenaed because he needs the subpoena so that he has the cover to go, hey, they made me come in? No. Going to be interesting to see what the guy who said the the suicide pact stuff. Going to be interesting to see what he's got to say. I hope we get to see it. I hope we do. But this is fascinating stuff. And oh, by the way, my congressman's name, Scott Perry, came up again in that hearing. Again, somebody who reportedly has asked for a pardon. We now know that he was in talks with Trump about going to the Capitol. He was there too. So again, a lot of questions for my congressman, Scott Perry, the Brigadier General. Again, somebody I find very scary and very, very dangerous in this moment. Let's go to the phones. Got Alice on one. Alice, how we doing?
We're doing. Yeah, I'm like you. It's like the media is trying to divert on some things, and it's just really ridiculous. And I'm thinking to myself, you know what? Had one Democrat's name came up doing anything illegal, it would be splashed all over the place, and they would be making such a big deal out of it. It's just not even funny.
Yep. No, and the other part of this is, you now look back at how unprepared the Capitol Police were. And you just think about it from the frame that Trump knew that that these people, the very best people, his people, the people who weren't there for him but willing to hang Mike Pence, how heavily armed they were. And then you look at the cops and what they were armed with. Most of them were just, had their batons and just, and little shields. They were woefully unprepared for what was going on. And this was, I argue, planned.
Oh, I agree with you. And, everyone at that point in time on January 6th, and for like a week, 2 weeks afterwards, everyone that wasn't a Republican, that is, was saying, why did they get in there with weapons? How did they do that? Why weren't the cops prepared? And we all suspected it, but now we have confirmation, I guess.
Yeah, well, going to be interesting to see what Cipollone has to say. Are you upset about the China, though? I mean, because that's what we're supposed to be upset about, the ketchup on the wall, the broken China, the hamburgers against the wall. I guess that's what we're supposed to be upset about.
Hey, you know what? That sounds like Melania's problem, not mine.
Oh, you think she's on her hands and knees cleaning up the dishes? No. That's never happened.
From what I understand, she's living in Maryland with her parents in a house that she bought.
Well,
she's not even living with him.
Well,
so hey.
That's their deal. I'm not. Don't care. None of my business. Let them deal with whatever they got to deal with. But appreciate the thoughts,
Yep.
Alice.
Take care.
Great stuff. No, look. I'm clearly not all that concerned about the ketchup in the hamburger. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. 1-866-416-RICK. 1-866-416-7425. Going to take a quick break. Right back here on the other side. What do you think? I mean, is it that big of a deal? The hamburgers, the ketchup on the wall. Do you think Melania was on her hands and knees scrubbing the carpet? You think? No, not a chance. Quick break. Right back. Stick around. If you're a fan of the show, you've heard our Labor History in 2 segments, and you can hear them on the radio pretty much anywhere in the U.S. Labor history has never been more important than it is right now. So here's what we'd like you to do. Tell a teacher. Tell a teacher that labor history is important and that they can get digestible 2-minute lessons that are absolutely free. Free to download, free to use, free to share. Tell a teacher to go to thericksmithshow.com/history and help us put labor back where it belongs, in the classroom. You know, generations of American workers fought, bled, and died to build the American way of life. It's our job to keep their stories alive. Go tell a teacher that we're here to help them do just that. Find us at thericksmithshow.com/history today.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So, R&B singer R. Kelly sentenced to 30 years in prison. Good for him. Evidently, sex trafficking case. Along with the, what's her name? The Giselle Maxwell, I think that's how you say her name. She got 20 years. A lot of people in the sex trafficking thing, a lot of sexual abuse stuff, getting some serious time. Not so much in the religious community, though. Not so much there. As the FBI has opened what they're calling a sweeping probe of clergy in New Orleans, evidently a bunch of sex abuse cases there, and just in time for the end of Roe versus Wade, and what I've been saying is going to be a conservative pivot to reinvigorating the social safety net. This is one of those moments where I'm telling you, I think this is going to happen. Mark the words. And I got a bunch of pushback from people. No, conservatives hate poor people. Yeah, they hate poor people. I didn't say they were going to help them. I said they're going to pivot to social programs that they can privatize. And someone said, well, you have to explain that because I don't quite get what you're saying. If you remember the George Bush years, this is my argument. If you remember the George Bush years, everything was about faith-based initiatives. Remember that phrase, faith-based initiatives. We were going to give a bunch of money to faith-based organizations, the do-gooder folks in the name of God Incorporated, to go out and do supposedly the good work that they're supposed to be doing. Now, are there some that do? Yeah, I think there are. Do I think most of them are spinning their wheels and wasting? Absolutely. Do I think most of the money that we give in tax breaks to churches is a horrible waste of tax dollars? Yes. I think we should be taxing churches like anybody else. They should be paying their fair share like everybody else. Because I'm sorry, I just don't see the value in the big picture, in the aggregate. That said, doesn't mean I'm anti-religion. I believe everybody should, follow your conscience, follow your creator, follow your God, follow whatever you want. That is your right. That's what you do. I do my thing, you do yours, but I shouldn't have to subsidize and pay for yours. It's that simple. But during the Bush years, they gave a whole boatload of money to different organizations to do community work. And because conservatives have been getting beat up for years about the fact that they don't really give a rat's behind about the homeless. They don't really care about hungry children. They really don't care about the poor. They really don't care about the downtrodden. Now remember, the religious people are the people who are supposed to be the ones out there healing the sick and taking care of the elderly and worrying about the downtrodden. That's supposed to be what Jesus was all about, right? So the faith-based initiatives were supposed to reward those people doing the good work, and that's how we were going to provide the social safety net. We don't need evil government. We need people closest to the problem. This is what the argument was. And they blew a bunch of money on this. And honestly, the results were minimal. There was some good done, but for the most part, the results were minimal. A lot of tax dollars went into feeding a machine. That's what's going to happen here. And you're already seeing a ramping up of a lot of these organizations, and now the pivot of, hey, now we'll help you, get the health care you need. We'll help you get the food service you need. We'll help you get all the services you need. You come through us. And as I argued, there are certain groups locally that I don't deal with. There are certain organizations that I just, because of their stance on, we'll only help you if you get into our religious track. We'll only give you food or shelter or assistance if you follow our mission. And I don't think that that's how it should be. I'm someone who believes you help someone, and if they want to come to your mission, then that's one thing. But to mandate it, to require it, that's a problem for me. And I've not worked with those groups. This is what I see us going for as a matter of policy, as a matter of addressing those programs, and the pivot for conservatives to now say that they care about the children that are forced being born. They don't care about them now, and I think that's important to realize. They've always been against social spending on food stamps. I mean, think about what they just did with the extra $250 a month for the poorest families in this country. Absolutely, under no circumstances were they going to allow that to continue. And as I said back then, think of how cruel that was. Because I remember as a kid being, poor and not knowing it, not knowing that it wasn't right, normal, natural, good, any of those things, that we were struggling so much that there wasn't food in the house at the end of the month. That my mother was always worried about us being evicted, that there was always a concern of, keeping the lights on, or you get the picture. But that little bit of money, gave them that, like Joe Biden says, a little bit of breathing room. Gave them that little bit of, hey, there's going to be food at the end of the month, a little bit of a cushion. And then to show them what was possible, to say this is how it could be, and then to just snatch it away, especially right after Christmas. Merry Christmas. In the most religious time of the year, we're going to make sure that you go back into poverty. Remember them for that, because that's who they are. So when they come and say, no, now we care about the poor and the homeless and the hungry, and we care about, the elderly, and we care about all the people we've been dumping on for decades, think about it in the frame of faith-based initiatives that they're going to propose is all about funneling tax dollars through private or religious organizations into campaign dollars for these people to line their pockets with. Because that's how this game is going to be played. And oh, by the way, we're going to enrich a couple more really rich charlatan preachers. So you're going to get another one to maybe own another stadium somewhere. You're going to get another one who wants a $60 million jet. You're going to get another one who wants, more. While there are people in their congregation and in their eyes shot who are going to bed hungry, who are going to sleep on the street, who are going without health care, who are not getting the medicine and the medical attention that they need, who aren't getting, the education that they should be getting. This is my problem with conservative ideology. This is my problem with conservatism. Talk a good game, follow through not there. All this preaching about privatization, we'll let the market decide. Well, the market sadly decides that only the well-connected and the affluent get what they need. While kids like me growing up in a place like I did will get nothing. And that's where my problems begin, and why we have to really start fighting back against this. I'd love to hear your thoughts. You can email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. I'm going to take a quick break. Right back. Stick around. If you missed any portion of the program, make sure you grab the podcast. Always there, always available, wherever you get your podcasts. Back after this. I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1937. That was the day SWAC leader Philip Murray beat back reports that the Little Steel strike had collapsed. Even as the steel companies were championing that the strike had been broken, Murray insisted that of the 90,000 workers involved, only 20,000 had returned to work in the mills that stretched across 7 states. He added they were mostly supervisors and foremen and not production workers. Murray leveled charges against Ohio Governor Martin Davey that the Ohio National Guard was being used as company police to smash the strike. Strike leaders added that the companies were staging dummy back-to-work parades. In fact, Labor Secretary Perkins had announced that it was the government's effort at mediation that had collapsed. But the steel magnates were on the offensive and had the backing of local politicians and police. George Mike, a union man and disabled veteran, was the latest casualty in the anti-labor war. He was killed the day before at Maltrup Steel in Beaver Falls, Ohio, as picketers clashed with deputy sheriffs. In Indiana, police rushed to plant gates at Inland Steel to guard against new battles as 20,000 strikers prepared for the imminent forced reopenings of Inland Steel and Youngstown Sheet and Tube there. Both mills remained closed for weeks. In Warren, Ohio, police issued a warrant for CIO strike leader Gus Hall and 2 other strike leaders on charges that he was the brains behind a terrorist plot to blow up strike-bound steel mills. And at Bethlehem's Cambria Works in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, 2 separate dynamitings destroyed main water supplies, causing an immediate end to an attempted back-to-work movement there. The strike was far from over. Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show. For more information, go to laborhistoryin2.com.
What's the most damning thing about America's healthcare system? The system. While our doctors, nurses, and technicians are among the best in the world, the system itself is not even designed for care, but for the constant expansion of profits for insurance giants, drug makers, hospital chains, system managers, financiers, and other voracious components of the medical industry. For starters, ponder that term, medical industry. The ethical essence of healthcare is that it's a human right, essential to every person and to the common good. But corporate elites now claim to own our health by shriveling the concept of care to just another product available to those who can pay whatever monopolistic industrialists demand. But this rationing of care meant the industry was leaving a mass market of millions of patients untapped. So industry bean counters made a critical adjustment. Lower prices? Don't get silly. Instead, the system is pushing medical debt as the ticket to care. So you come in sick or injured, scared, dazed, and suddenly you're hooked up to a long-term medical payment plan. A recent survey by the Kaiser Family Foundation revealed that more than 100 million Americans, including 41% of all adults, are in hock because of the skyrocketing costs of the so-called care industry. This includes debt that patients owe directly to the system, plus money borrowed from family or friends or put on credit cards. An analysis in 2019 estimated that families were being hit with at least $195 billion in payments for medical borrowing, a number driven dramatically higher since the pandemic. As one doctor angrily said of industrial health care, debt is no longer just a bug in our system, it is one of the main products. We have a healthcare system almost perfectly designed to create debt. This is Jim Hightower saying, how sick is that?
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So interesting story yesterday that you got. Now, yesterday's story was 88 elected prosecutors and district attorneys. That number has increased over the day. And it's far north of that, of people saying, hey, we're in elected positions. We are not going to enforce these abortion bans. We're not going to prosecute women. We're not going to do this. And you go, okay, well, for now, that's great. A lot of little prosecutorial discretion. That's a good thing, which is why the right-wing money will be coming for them very soon. So this is a short-term security little bit. But long-term, this is where the attacks are going to be coming next. And the big money is going to start flowing very soon. And here to share some thoughts on how that is going to roll out, I've asked Dr. Alyssa Bowen to come talk with us. She's a managing editor and senior researcher over at True North Researcher. She's also a contributor over at Truth Out. They've got a piece out titled Right-Wing Dark Money is Coming for Your Reproductive Rights in Your State, coming near you. Dr. Bowen, thanks for taking time for us.
Yes, thank you so much, Rick, for having me. It's a pleasure.
So I'm looking at these, 88 plus district attorneys, prosecutors who have said, you know what, we're not doing this. you're not getting us to to go after your hate. We're not going after this. We're not doing this. These are targets now, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, all you have to do is look as far as attorney general's races in different states to see sort of the model there. Yeah, we just had a piece out in Truth Out that talked about the way that attorney general races are being targeted, and they're doing that through a really massive sort of network by Leonard Leo, who is, I think he's getting increasing name recognition. But this far-right lawyers at the helm of over 580, a network that has received donations upwards of $580 million since 2014. And he's kind of coordinating all these groups that are using different tactics basically to overturn our rights. So they're going after attorney generals, they're going after rights in the legislators. They're looking to there are some of the groups that are, like, for example, the Republican State Leadership Committee that's looking to gerrymander in the states in order to get right-wing legislators in power, and then enforce different legislation that favors them. So we really are seeing this play out at many levels, and we're definitely seeing this play out at the Supreme Court level this week as well.
No, and the reality is that the moneyed interest of this country, the wealth class of this country, has funded a machine that is second to none, and that most people don't even know. And as you said, this Leonard Leo guy is getting a little bit of attention where he never wanted it before. This is an extremist right-wing lawyer, but also a fundraiser for the Federalist Society, who is behind what's going on at the Supreme Court, and not just the Supreme Court, but our entire judicial system. They have been behind stacking the court with ultra right-wing theocratic corporate justices and judges for years. This isn't new, and it's not news to folks like, well, your organization and people here at the program.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and tomorrow we'll see what happens. You mentioned pro-corporate judges with West Virginia versus EPA. That decision should come out tomorrow, and unfortunately, I think we might see the power of these federal agencies' ability to do their jobs really just essentially destroyed. And for example, now the EPA may no longer be able to really do anything meaningful related to climate change.
And where they shouldn't be able to do anything. We should be able to burn and pillage and pollute at will, because that's capitalism. That's it's what makes us money. But no, this is the weird part of where we are, because the moneyed interest who have gone unexposed for years continue to push for policies that benefit them, the handful, at the expense of the rest of us. And you look at like the Koch brothers, and you look like some of the big names, the Betsy DeVosses of the world. You look at some of the handful of people who are out in the public eye, but there's a bunch of them behind the scenes who are funding this kind of zealotry, this right-wing theocracy, this kind of fascistic kind of form of government that really our court system seems to be moving towards. Or am I just being a bit too hyperbolic?
I don't think you are being hyperbolic, Rick. I think Leonard Leo sort of made this clear that he intends, I can't remember the exact context of the speech, but he gave a speech several years ago where he explicitly said that he is, in his entire plan, is to sort of turn back our rights to the pre-New Deal era, where there were sort of robber barons and like huge corporations that dominated civic life. And that's his ultimate goal, and the goal of the funders behind him and his network.
See, now I keep saying, they want to take us back to the good old days of the 80s and 90s, and not the 1980s and 90s, and you've just highlighted that. They want to take us back to the gilded age of the 1880s and that era, because, well, it's when they had all the power, they had all the money, and we working stiffs, well, we were desperate and pliable and had to work, morning to night and still, morning to night till death. That's where they want things going back to.
Seems that way.
So in looking at this, because, and again, they have built, and you have to give credit where credit is due. I mean, you go back, you read the Powell memo from 1971, and you talk about the statesman-like sum of 10% of all corporate profits going into a pot of money to build all of these institutions, from these think tanks to these attack groups to things like the Federalist Society, who has had such outweighed power in deciding our Supreme Court. Why is there nothing on the other side? Why is there nothing on the side of, hey, we need balance? How has that not happened?
Oh, that is a difficult question to answer. I would say part of the issue is that, there are groups now that are on the left, demand justice, fighting for power in the courts, but there's just not, first of all, I think Democrats are more critical of dark money generally. I would say that, Senator Whitehouse, for example, is pretty outspoken against dark money and for more accountability and public disclosure laws. So that's one thing. But I think also corporations benefit disproportionately from some of these repressive sort of legislation and policies that are being promoted by this network, and that's a sad thing to say, but I think that also is part of it.
Yeah, it's all about the money. There's just not enough money on the other side to create these institutions that have done so much damage to our country. And I look at this overturning of Roe as just one more step to taking us back to the pre-New Deal era. Because I keep saying this, we're at this moment right now. This is 1932 all over again. And how we decide to react to this come this November is going to decide how my children are going to have to lead their entire lives. I don't see there being any quick fixes or any quick changes. Or do you see something different?
Oh, it's really easy to be pessimistic, and I definitely have my pessimistic moments. I would say I hope that, let's just say, like, the Roe decision, the overturning of Roe was devastating, and reading the decisions of Alito and Thomas it's just despicable to see what the things that they're writing. And we know also that they have larger aspirations. This is really only just the beginning for them. Even if you look specifically at Roe, like the dark money anti-abortion groups that are behind this, for example, Alliance Defending Freedom, that authored the bill in Mississippi that was in Dobbs, that was being challenged in Dobbs. That was their entire reason. That's their entire purpose, is to escalate things to the Supreme Court so the captured court can overturn decades and more than decades of rights. But and they think this is just the beginning for them, which it is. Students for Life, which is writing model bills as part of the Leonard Leo Network. He's on the board there, and they are really interested now in basically banning certain kinds of contraception because they consider them abortifacient, like IUDs and those kinds of things. And so it's really, so that's the pessimistic side of things. But I will also say that I think that this is the beginning of a new wave of kind of solidarity building. That's my hope. You've seen, and I think also people are seeing these aren't just single issue concerns. This dark money in politics and the way it comes to bear in our political system, because the Dobbs decision is devastating, but it's also being followed by the decision to make it impossible for climate change policy to change with the EPA, and that disproportionately affects Black and Brown communities. And so I think and so does the Dobbs decision, and I think people are seeing that, and I'm really hopeful that this can also be a moment of solidarity building that goes beyond just a single issue.
No, I hope you're right. I hope this is where the groundswell of organizing happens, especially in the workplace. And we're seeing a number of employers coming out and saying, "Hey, we're going to protect women's, access to care, but however we have to do that," and that's a good thing. You're listening to the Rick Smith Show here with Dr. Alyssa Bowen. She's managing editor and senior researcher over at True North Research, also a contributor over at Truth Out. Does some fantastic stuff. They got a new piece out on right-wing dark money. that's coming for your reproductive rights in your state. And yes, it is coming after your judges, coming after your attorney generals, coming after your, well, all of your state judges, your attorney generals, all of your elected officials. Also, I would argue, and this is where maybe we're going to pivot a little bit. I believe that you're going to see a lot of Republicans and these groups find their way towards a social safety net. And rebuilding the social safety net, only doing it with faith-based initiatives and using tax dollars to fund these groups, getting a whole bunch of our tax dollars to fund their hate and their work. I'm curious your thoughts.
Yeah, that is so interesting. I'm really impressed actually that's something that you've noticed, because that's something that we've been finding too after the Dobbs decision, is that a lot of these groups are now calling basically to kind of avoid claims that they're being hypocritical by saying they're pro-family and then not supporting women when they're forced to give birth due to these policies. And the overturning of Roe. And so a lot of them are saying, we need to build some kind of, they're not saying going so far as social safety nets, but they are saying they want support for women and they want to make sure. But some of them, I was listening to an interview with March for Life's leader earlier, and she said that what that support would look like is actually these, what do they call them? The right-wing version of the abortion clinics, the pregnancy centers,
the crisis centers,
the crisis pregnancy, exactly, the so-called pregnancy crisis centers, where they kind of pressure women into not
browbeat. I like browbeat better.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so that is her solution. She says that a lot of these centers actually will pay women basically not to have an abortion and will sort of fund that. So I actually think that rather than funding the social safety net, they're going to be more interested in private avenues. So encouraging donation by donors to pregnancy kind of, things that don't really work.
Right. But here's where my thought process goes, because I look at the charter school folks, I look at the homeschool folks. Their ultimate goal is to get their snout into the trough of public money, and not to use it public schools, not to have government oversight, but to get the money, and to then be able to use it for their aim. So as soon as they can get their snout in the trough, then they're going to suck it dry, and they're going to use it for all of their things. So I look at it, all of the things you're talking about, getting those things all lined up, all their programs lined up. And then saying, oh, by the way, we're going to offer tax breaks for billionaires to give us massive donations. Oh, we're going to get block grants to do outreach for X, Y, or Z, knowing that they're never going to do those things. That it's just going to be giant ripoff, but under the guise of, hey, we're taking care of the babies, Allison. Or I mean,
no, I think that's an interesting thought, and that might very well be true. I will say one avenue that they're pushing right now is Rubio's. Rubio is coming out with a that's supposed to be an alternative to an actual genuine comprehensive paid family leave program. And it's actually just a kind of scam where families can borrow against their Social Security and then basically retire later or never if they aren't able to pay it back.
Or never. So
that's sort of them undermining actually the social safety net while pretending to provide a social safety net.
Exactly. See, this is the kind of because I love my Christian capitalists, the prosperity gospel folks who will swindle you out of your last 2 cents, and not give it to the church, and just one of those. It's a very different outlook, I guess. I guess we went to different catechism classes and had different preachers, I guess different worlds. So last question I've got for you, in looking at this, because look, the attacks are going to be real. This is going to ramp up and in a huge way. And as I've said, look, the billionaire class that we've allowed to be created, they've got all the money, but fortunately we've outprocreated them. There are more of us if we vote, if we organize, if we come together. You said a moment ago it's easy to be pessimistic. What's the marching order for folks? What advice are you giving? What hope do you have? Leave us with something good.
Okay, yes, I will try. No, I mean, I feel like I said, I think there is hope. I think people need to get out and organize in their communities. I think donating to, recurring donations to funds that fund reproductive rights are really important, and like having that recurring donation so it's sustainable is really important. Or like you said, organize in your workplace is never a bad idea, I think, in order to build solidarity and sort of like networks of organizing. And then I think you can also, if you want to follow us and like kind of, and other like-minded like watchdog groups that track what's going on and kind of try to make legible all these intentionally confusing networks of dark money, then you can follow us on Twitter. You can follow Documented is a really important investigative journalist outlet. The Lever by Dave Sirota is amazing. They do a lot. Andrew Perez there does like an amazing job tracking Leo. And I'm trying to think, Center for Media and Democracy is also amazing. So I think like keeping informed is also really important.
Some of my favorite places, and of course your site, truenorthresearch.org. We'll get links out on social media how you can take a look at that. But Dr. Bowen, I appreciate you taking time for us. Good stuff. I hope you'll come back and talk to us again real soon.
That'll be wonderful. Thank you so much for having us. We're huge fans.
Thanks so much. Great stuff. Seriously, this is one of these moments, folks, where it's about the money, which is why we need a much different tax code, much different, because we're seeing the abuse. We're seeing the abuse firsthand. This was always the goal. Love to hear your thoughts. 1-866-416-RICK, 1-866-416-7425. Right back after this. Stick around. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk. I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1917. That was the day that American folklorist Archie Green was born in Winnipeg, Canada. His father was a Ukrainian refugee who had fought in the 1905 Russian Revolution. As a young boy, his family moved to Los Angeles. There, he enjoyed listening to cowboy songs on the radio. Archie grew up to become a shipwright and a carpenter, but he never forgot those cowboy songs. At the age of 40, he returned to college at the University of Illinois to study labor history. He wanted to learn about the songs and the stories at the heart of the U.S. labor movement. He was interested in what he dubbed labor lore, the folklore of working people. For 7 years, Archie led the effort to get Congress to pass the American Folklife Preservation Act. Finally, in 1976, Congress unanimously supported the act. The act allowed for the founding of the American Folklife Center at the Library of Congress. The center helps to collect the stories of the working class. Archie wrote books and essays about workers, including miners, tinsmiths, millwrights, and the Sailors Union of the Pacific. In 2007, he helped to edit the Big Red Songbook. The book includes the lyrics of nearly 200 labor songs. These songs had been included in various editions of the Little Red Songbooks published by the industrial workers of the world between 1909 and 1973. Archie Green understood that workers' stories deserved to be remembered and told. He spent 5 decades as a scholar and advocate for these stories. His work has helped to preserve the record of working class life in America for generations to come. Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show.
You're listening to The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk.
Here's some bad news. According to the New York Times, more than 360 newspapers in the U.S. have gone out of business since the pandemic began. You go, wow, that doesn't seem like a lot. But then you go, well, wait a second. Overall, they're reporting that 2,500 newspapers, a quarter have closed since 2005. And they're also saying that the country's set to lose a third of the newspapers by 2025. Most of them going to be your local outlets, the ones that inform people locally. They've had massive cuts to staff, and the circulation's gone down because we don't read newspapers anymore. They were told. But sad reality is you've seen these cuts, and you've seen all this stuff happen, and the way people get their news and the way people get information is changing, and it's the moneyed interests who have filled those voids, and we as Americans had better figure out how we're going to get unbiased news. This is one of those weird kind of moments where if you're getting something for free, you got to wonder who's really paying for it. And I look at the F channel. The F channel pays millions of dollars to their hosts. Who's paying that? Oh, it's the advertisers. Yeah, okay. Who have an agenda. And that agenda is decidedly moving in a direction that is moving this country down this path to more strength for the moneyed interest. And this is where the organizing, and I'm hoping this happens soon, because I think we're ripe for it. I think this decision, another bad Supreme Court decision, another decision that is not popular with the mass of the public. I'm hoping this is another one of those moments where people go, well, wait a second, this is another bridge too far. This is the last straw. And I don't know how many of those moments we're going to have. How many of those this is the last straw moments can you have before people finally start going, we've got to find common ground. We've got to come together and elect people who are going to do things that we need them to do. Not sure when that's going to happen. Now, I'm told, and this is where, look, the economy's struggling. We're losing jobs. And of course, it's going to be, working class folks who are going to suffer because of the recession that they may bring on. But as they're fighting inflation, there will be job losses. As they're slamming on the brakes, there are going to be people who lose their job. As Larry Summers said, he'd be okay with a year of 10% unemployment. And you go, wow, that's pretty massive to make sure that you're happy. But what about those 10% of the people who lose their jobs? What about those families? What about all the millions of people who are going to lose their homes and all the stuff that goes with that? Yeah, we'll give them unemployment. What, in a state like Florida that gives you 6 weeks? This is one of these moments where working class folks have got to come together and start talking about how do we move in a direction that we get policy that benefits, finally, workers and their families. How do we push for policy that's going to make sure that we get the things that are needed? Instead of always the kind of the welfare handouts we give to corporate America and the very wealthy. People who don't need it. Massive tax breaks. No one seemed to be all that upset when Trump gave the massive tax breaks away. You didn't hear whining and complaining then. But boy, we gave $1,400 to people so that they could feed themselves, and you thought the end of the world happened. This is where we've got to start. We've got to start coming together, and maybe this road decision is going to be it. Maybe finally women have gone, hey, wait a second, that it's us. They're coming for us. And maybe their boyfriends and husbands and fathers and grandfathers, maybe they're coming after people we care about. Maybe this is that moment. Maybe this is that spark. We can only hope.
There were multiple errors, miscalculations, and just a total lack of resources by the U.S. Forest Service.
New Mexico's largest ever wildfire caused by a prescribed burn. Japan's electric grid strains under historic extreme heat wave. Plus,
about 3/4 of U.S. adults have experienced extreme weather in the last 5 years.
And for many of them, extreme weather events are disastrous for long-term finances.
All of those disasters and more straight ahead. From BradBlog.com, I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
Stand by for 6 minutes of independent green news, politics, analysis, and snarky comment.
I made the point that Jeff Clark is not even competent to serve as the Attorney General. He's never been a criminal attorney. He's never conducted a criminal investigation in his life. And he kind of retorted by saying, well, I've done a lot of very complicated appeals and environmental litigation. And I said, that's right, you're an environmental lawyer. How about you go back to your office and we'll call you when there's an oil spill.
Oh, environmental lawyer slam. Well, it's Jeff Clark. Actually, he was an anti-environmental lawyer, so go get him. This is your Green News Report. Okay, Desi Doyen, you think enough people are watching the January 6th?
KCAA Loma Linda.